So your son is trying to get recruited to play college football and be a quarterback. So today I'm gonna break that down step by step, exactly what you need to do, not only within the recruiting process, but within your own development. So that way you can make sure that not only you're the best quarterback you can be, the best player, the best person, and also get recruited to the best possible school that you want. Now, if you don't know who I am, I'm Trent Loyer. I am a former college quarterback. I got recruited to play as high as FCS. I ended up going to a small school over in Iowa called Morningside University. It's one of the top NAIA schools. I've also helped over 200 families in the past 2 years get over $20 million in scholarships. So with that said, let's dive into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is just what do you actually need to do from a quarterback side to be recruitable, to go to high division as possible. Because obviously to play college football, you need to be a collegiate level athlete. Otherwise, none of the other stuff matters. So first, let's talk about measurables, because that is going to be some of the bigger barrier to entry in the quarterback position. Now, to be fair, this is probably one of the best times in the entire history of the sport to get recruited as a less ideal measurable player, especially at the quarterback position, because you've got guys that are doing it that are less than ideal measurable wise. You know, for example, obviously Bryce Young this year did extremely well. He is undersized, he's not even 6 foot. So that's a great example there of that. Ideally, you're above 5'10". Once you get below that number, that definitely becomes a lot harder. Ideal range is probably anywhere from 6'1" to obviously 6'5" and up. You know, in terms of weight, you can get away with less weight nowadays as well. You see a lot of the quarterbacks are definitely not as heavier as they used to be. If, like, for example, if you were 6'2", usually at the Division I level, you're gonna be looking at 220 probably is your ideal weight. Nowadays, you can usually get away with like 200. You know, if you're under height, you know, maybe 5'11", 5'10", you can get away with potentially 185, 190. But the more that you obviously weigh, the more power you're able to produce. So that is a factor as well. But with the way that more modern quarterback development is, it makes sense to be more dynamic in terms of how you play, extend plays, all that kind of stuff. Outside of the height and weight side, obviously you got 40 time, you've got speed. That's really the last thing that really matters in terms of measurables. Obviously strength, bench, squat, clean really don't matter a whole lot. Again, coaches know that, so they really don't care too much. Obviously it's something you can use to your strength in recruiting process to show, hey, I'm strong, I can do strong things. But it's not necessarily gonna move the needle a ton, because the bigger part of it is, hey, can you actually play on the field? But when it comes to 40 time, that can be a big needle mover. Again, when we talk about extending plays, being athletic, that is a big thing that a lot of coaches look for and wanting to have in their system. Nowadays, you definitely cannot run above a 5. I would say ideally, you're running somewhere around a 4.7, 4.8 would be like bare minimum. Ideally, obviously, you definitely wanna go lower, as low as possible. Let's go into what does a good quarterback look like? What are the characteristics that they have? Now, the first thing that I look for in a quarterback, and I know a lot of quarterback coaches and a lot of offense coordinators do, is just, can they make all the throws? Because that's gonna be one of the bigger barrier to entries, is like, can this guy make a field side comeback route? Can they make that field side comeback route from a 22 to 18 comeback? I mean, that's a big boy throw. Can they make that on a line on a 1 ball? Can you make that deep corner throw? Can you make something on the run, going against the grain, going against your body? Can you handle pressure coming in and still deliver that strike across the field on a 20-yard dig, or maybe a low glance route, or whatever the case might be? They're looking to see, hey, can this guy make all the throws just physically? Is he capable of it? Because if you're not capable of it, then they can't trust you within their system no matter what. Once you check that box, then it becomes more specific to that coach. Okay, so like, again, some coaches like to see, hey, can this guy extend plays? Some coaches care more about, hey, can this guy stand in and take the pressure, stand in, stay in the pocket, not get scared? Can he conflict climb in the pocket? Like, for example, I was talking to a pretty famous quarterback coach, and he was kind of breaking down that, like, he was talking to some other quarterback coaches in the space, and they were saying, hey, like, we're looking for somebody that can climb up in the pocket, that can conflict climb, because nowadays a lot of quarterbacks just shy away and they try to boot out. Whether they're doing more of a reverse spin or they're spinning out to the right, they're looking for ways to get away. We want to see someone that is willing to step up in that pocket and actually, throw the ball downfield instead of like trying to get outside of the pocket. And so it's important to keep that in mind when you're putting together your film, when you're trying to do things, and when you're trying to improve as well. So now you kind of understand like what it takes to just be a quarterback. Again, this is a pretty general idea. I mean, there's a lot more in depth you go into. Obviously, mechanics is a big thing as well. Making sure that you're fluid and dynamic in terms of your mechanics. You have the common things that are associated. To be fair, a lot of quarterback coaches, obviously, and offense coordinators have different takes on mechanics, so that can vary as well. For example, like for me, I was very much taught, the off arm to me is a big thing, as well as how your shoulder path is. for some coaches, they don't necessarily look at that. They look for different things within your feet and everything. So having good mechanics, having good footwork is another thing that they look at. So it just depends. Some coaches obviously rank certain things higher to them than others, just depending on what you have. You know, some coaches, for example, don't really care a lot about how you process the game, if you read defenses, because that to them isn't necessarily a big part, because they just got to put you in a system that takes care of it all for you, and you just need to be the person that, you know, directs the ball to the right person, gets the ball to them in as fast as possible way. Let's go more into the recruiting side of things, because I think this is where things get more interesting. Everybody can tell who's a good quarterback. It's easy to tell, hey, you need to make the throws, you need to have the arm strength, you need to have the accuracy, you need to be able to read the field, make plays, be smart, all that kind of stuff. But the thing is, there's a lot of good quarterbacks out there, and not everyone gets recruited. Not everyone goes play at the Division I level. So what can you do to make sure that you're the kind of guy that stands out, that coaches actually decide to offer the scholarship? Now, I think I have a unique perspective on this because I grew up in the hottest quarterback market, California. And so I was surrounded by a bunch of great quarterbacks, and I myself didn't get a lot of film, yet in some situations I was still able to stand out, still able to get talking to these schools, still able to get offers despite all of that. Now, the big thing to keep in mind is just timing. Quarterback is a very highly sought after position. So you have to factor in that you have to start early to make sure that you have all the opportunities available to you. Now, this is from a different side, not only on the recruiting side of things, but also on the film side of things. You need to try and get film early, varsity film early, because that's going to give you a huge advantage over guys that don't have that film. As well as, like, a lot of coaches will not take you very seriously just because you did not start on your high school as a freshman or sophomore. And of course, school by school situation is different. Obviously, if you go to extremely competitive high school and you're behind some 4-star, 5-star guy, obviously that could lead you to getting film later, but still these coaches have that kind of stigma that, hey, if you're that good, you would be the kind of guy that starts early rather than later. The big thing I would recommend is making sure that you're getting as much video as possible early on. I'm talking freshman year, sophomore year, not only with game film, but also workout film. Just showing again that you can do those things that we talked about in terms of making the throws, in terms of making plays, in terms of being athletic, all those kinds of things. The more proof that you have stacked up, the more likely the coach is going to be to want to recruit you, because it becomes this almost feedback-like loop where you're collecting some proof, posting that proof, showing it to the coach, and then the coach sees it, likes you a little bit more, he becomes more aware of you, he sees something that maybe he didn't see before that checks some kind of box, and then you collect more video, it goes through, and it's able to continue to build kind of this asynchronous relationship where maybe you're not in touch with the coach, but he's following you on Twitter, he's seeing more stuff of you, and they become just more aware of you, more that you're in their mind going, okay, maybe this is a guy that might actually be the guy for our program this year. And that's really the power of Twitter and posting on there, because when coaches follow you, they're going to see your posts, especially if you're posting stuff that they like to see, that they're paying attention to. Twitter picks up on that and is going to serve them more of that content. And the best part is, this isn't stuff that you're directly messaging them. So it's not like they're being like, oh, this guy is force feeding this to me. No, you're just putting it out there for them. They're seeing it naturally in a state that they want to watch and consume this kind of material, and it allows you to get more time with them that you wouldn't get otherwise. Ultimately, what I'm saying with this is that a big part of it is just getting seen by coaches, getting them to see you as an elite level quarterback for them to recruit. Because again, you have to remember that at any college, they're only gonna take anywhere from 1 to 2 quarterbacks that they're going to recruit, that they're going to offer. Now, the other part of this is camps. Being in person, for them to see you throw, to see the way the ball comes off of the hand, they need that part of the evaluation. Really, the only time you're gonna get away with a more virtual evaluation is maybe a lower level school. And even then, they're still gonna have you throw at some point in the recruiting process. They may already offer you, may already give you the financial packet, and then just verify things on that official visit that you take. Because this position is so important, they have to make sure there's no mistakes when it comes to evaluating their quarterback and making sure that they're getting the right guy. So now you're getting noticed by the coaches to some extent. You're reaching out to these coaches, you're posting on Twitter, you're going to camps to get evaluated. Really, just keep in mind that the camps, you're not necessarily going to get discovered by the coaches. You may, it's definitely possible, but for the most part, they have their guys that they're working with. A great story on this is I actually went to a camp one time to go see one of the guys that we were working with, and while I was there, I noticed that they were telling some of the quarterbacks, hey, go over to this side of the field and you're going to go follow this coach. They actually ended up taking them from the field where the whole camp was happening to a field on the other side of the entire stadium. It was a group of probably 8 to 10 quarterbacks, and they just did a private quarterback workout with the actual offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, and he did a more proper, thorough evaluation on these players instead of grouping them in with all these other quarterbacks. When that happens, what do you think is going on? Obviously, they're not even looking at all the 50, 60, however many other quarterbacks there were. They were only looking at that about 8 to 10 guys and really doing deep evaluations on them, because that's all they cared about. They had already seen their film, they had probably already been talking to them to some extent, and they just wanted to see them throw in person to decide, okay, who are we gonna actually go with later on and who are we actually gonna offer at the end of the day. And I can guarantee you that you're gonna see this in your own process when you go to camps, when you go to a random camp and you're like, I'm gonna get noticed, I'm gonna ball out, and then you ball out but don't get noticed just because they were already talking to some kid. They were keeping their eyes on this kid. They're talking to them before, after the camp. They're doing a visit before the camp. They're looking at this kid's film before the camp, and they're doing nothing with you because they have no idea who you were beforehand, and they still have no idea who you were afterwards. Now, the last part I want to talk about is you're getting noticed by the coaches. What do we do from there? How do we push this into an actual offer? You have to understand that the relationship is very key with a quarterback again. I mean, the relationship that you have with your OC, with your quarterbacks coach is extremely important. You guys need to be able to trust each other. It's not like another position where they can just put you out there and let you do your thing. They need to know how you play as a player, how you are, how you act. You guys are gonna be spending a lot of time together, so you need to be able to gel and trust. So every opportunity that you get when you're communicating with these coaches, you need to be showing that you're the kind of guy that's going to be a leader to their program. You can understand what they're trying to accomplish from an offensive scheme standpoint. You do this by researching the coach, researching the offensive scheme that they're running, maybe even looking at their own games and seeing what kind of concepts are run, asking them unique questions about what they look for in a quarterback to further understand how you can position yourself correctly. All these little things add up, again, to build that further trust, to build that proof that you're the kind of guy that they should take. It's all what it comes down to is, how can I show these coaches that I am the right decision, I am the easy decision out of all the other quarterbacks they have to choose from? And if you do that right, you will turn that interest into an actual offer. Now, realize that I didn't talk anything about stars, rankings, any of that flashy media stuff, because it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Yes, obviously getting attention can be cool. Maybe it can have some advantage. Maybe it happens to get a coach's eye on you. So I'm not saying that you should neglect it or just turn away from it altogether. I'm just saying don't optimize for it. Because at the end of the day, we've worked with over 200 families. About 30% of those families have gone to the Division I level. You know, if any of them got their stars, to be fair, some of the guys that end up going FBS or got FCS schools never had any stars, even after they committed and signed. And even the ones that did get stars, they got stars after they got majority, if not all of their offers. So yes, it may help if you get the stars or the rankings or the media attention, but it really doesn't matter. What matters at the end of the day is what the coaches think. And again, proving to the coaches that you're the guy worth investing into. So just focus on that from a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint, from an exposure standpoint, from a relationship standpoint, and everything else will take care of itself. What I talked about is really just grazing the surface. You're probably thinking the same thing, that, hey, this was extremely informative, that I got a lot of value from this, and you have somewhat of a plan to ultimately get to that goal of being a college level quarterback, a Division I quarterback, whatever your goal is. There's a lot of pieces in between that. How do you actually message coaches? What kind of videos are you actually doing? What kind of throws do they want to see? We help with all of that inside Your First Scholarship. I went through the process myself. We've worked with multiple quarterbacks. I just recently talked to one of our quarterbacks. They're going to actually be committing to Wagner, which is a Division I school over in the Northeast. I'm super stoked for them. And we just had another quarterback about 2 weeks ago commit to Western Carolina on a scholarship offer. We know what's working right now, not only what worked in my process, but again, what's working today currently. So if you're looking for help with that, you can go ahead, click the link below, book a call to learn more about what we do, how we work, and see if it makes sense for us on both sides. So hopefully I will talk to you soon there.